every day, is it?
I'm off with my wife Ev to the polar bear capital of the world, the remote town of Churchill in Arctic Canada. I love extremes, so to go to the Arctic and look into the eyes of the world's largest land carnivore is an opportunity I couldn't turn down.
Look at them having a little play. Freezing. There's no snow though, is there?
This is it. That's basically Churchill here. This long street with the port at the end, where they store grain from all over Canada and distribute it by this enormous train and by ships over the Hudson Bay. The temperature's dropped dramatically over the last 3 or 4 hours, and we've got a feeling that it might snow. We're really hoping so. So maybe tomorrow this will be a very, very different scene. And it does make you wonder why you would live here.
I suppose the real question is, why would anyone build a town right in the middle of polar bear country? We'd crossed the Atlantic, up to Winnipeg and further north to Churchill, perched on a spit of land jutting into the Hudson Bay. For centuries, this peninsula has been the bears' natural point of access to the bay. After a summer of fasting on land, they come together here and wait for the sea to freeze, so they can go out and hunt for seals in the ice. The area was developed as a port in the 1930s and has since grown into a town of 800 residents. Now, every autumn, as the bears congregate, Churchill becomes a battleground between man and nature. Before venturing out to find the bears, I went to meet Tony De Silva, Churchill's baker, General Mr. Fix-It, and the man who makes the best French toast in town.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Welcome to Churchill.
Thanks very much. Your town.
Yeah.
It's your town.
So how's everything?
Very good, yeah. It's taken us about 3 days to get here. Or 2 days to get here. We got halfway here in the plane and then they turned us back. We had to go back.
Very nice.
Yeah, have you got some bears for us to see and stuff?
Sure, of course, there's a lot of bears in town. Oh, yeah.
We've been walking around like that, going around the corners.
Lately there is, because the weather, of course, I mean, the weather is so smooth, I mean, like bears are coming more in town, like looking for food and things like that.
Yeah.
So you got to be very careful when you go out at night, if you go out at night.
Yeah. Well, how do we go out at night? You don't? You drive?
Oh, sure, you can go out at night. I mean, you just have to be careful. I mean...
So if you see one and you're walking around, do you run very fast?
No,
or do you stand still and scream?
With my size, I cannot run very much. I get tired very fast.
Polar bears are strict carnivores. They spend the winter hunting and eating seals, and can eat up to 300 pounds of meat, the weight of 2 people in a single sitting. Living with these potential man-eaters is a real problem for the people of Churchill, and one that needs policing. Wade Roberts, Chief Wildlife Officer and TV-friendly polar bear expert. Wade runs the Polar Bear Alert Program, a wildlife patrol which captures any bear that comes within 5 miles of the town.
So, do you got any pictures of yourself or anything I can give to my kids?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
They love that movie. Darth Maul, the bad guy.
Darth Maul in the film, he speaks like this, kill them, all of them.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then in real life, he's like, oh, yeah, morning, mate. Right, I'm going to cut your head and then you deflect off the left leg and I'll come round and cut your cheek.
That's difficult, yeah.
And what does it feel like when a bear's charging towards you? How do you feel at that moment?
What I do is I go down on one knee, make myself smaller, and you really have to focus on what you're doing. You can't make a dumb decision like turn and try to run away, because you have to stand your ground.
The team try to minimize dangerous confrontations by setting out baited traps to catch the bears before they enter the 5-mile control zone.
This is just one of the methods we use to try and capture the bears. And this is called a culvert trap. And as you can see, it's set up in a manner that we can hook it on our vehicle and drive it away. If we catch a bear, it's really easy to handle the bear. And when we put it in the facility, we can just back right up to the holding facility and chain the trap to the wall and let the bear out. We don't even have to handle it or drug it.
So you don't have to drug the bear at all using this?
And it just goes right into the facility. And,
can I be a bear?
You can be a bear. You come in the back up to the front, and then you'll pull that bait like a bear grabbing it, and the door will go down.
Okay.
You'll have to give it quite a yank.
Right. So, and it's and the bait is what?
It's seal.
Seal oil.
Yeah.
Okay. The bear comes up, smells the seal oil on the rag, and then eats the rag. So you've got a bear?
Yeah, our patrol guys tranquilized the bear just now. They free-ranged it, as we call it in the dark.
Free-range polar bear, as opposed to processed battery polar bear.
Stay back until everything's safe. Just let us know.
Yeah, you guys are now.
Never. We'll make sure everything's safe before we get into it, but that's no problem. I'll just stop and grab my handgun here as well.
Look at that. By the time we got to the scene, the bear had already been tranquilized.
It's a bear we handled before. The ear tags are gone, so we're going to have to give it new ear tags.
Yes.
But it has a lip tattoo, so we'll find out which bear this is.
And is that the blood on the back? Is that from the dart?
That's from the dart, yeah. Which, because it's a white animal, it looks like it's bleeding a lot.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of blood.
We'll give it some Hibitane and some penicillin.
Can I touch him?
Yeah. He's out, he's fine.
That's my finger, and that's his tooth. Do you know in that film with the shark, and it's out for the count, and then it turns around and goes, "Arr!" Just thought of that.
You want to just give him 10 cc's and then we're out of here.
The size of that, look. There's the claws under there, look. Jesus Christ, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
In the past, a bear caught near town would have been shot. Thanks to the Polar Bear Alert program, they are now given another chance.
God almighty, that's heavy. All right.
Enough room there?
Yeah, he's on.
Where does it go, Wade, now?
No, it goes to the holding facility.
Yeah.
Polar bear jail, as some people
The
call it.
jail.
See, I quit smoking, I don't puff as much anymore.
Yeah, good for you.
Polar Bear Jail can hold up to 23 bears and is already half full. The bears are kept here until the bay freezes, then they'll be airlifted out onto the ice.
We're not allowed to see in there, I don't think. Because lots of wild polar bears roaming around. I don't think they want us to see that yet. Or at all, I don't know. Never mind. Maybe too disturbing anyway.
Apparently the real reason people aren't allowed in is to prevent the bears from being stressed when they wake up. It's difficult to say how long the bear will be kept here. It all depends on the weather. That night, I headed to Traders, a local watering hole. Our wildlife cameraman and fellow Scotsman, Doug, came along too. I was amazed to hear how many points of view there were about the bears in such a small town.
Well, because it's changed. The ecology has changed. Lots of changes here in the last 20 years.
Well, I agree with the change, Brian, but also I believe in a way, if you want to look at it, it's kind of an habituation too.
Yep.
You've got bears that come back year after year, and they are familiar with the Tundra vehicles, and they come into the area. They're familiar with humans.
It seems that these bears are not chasing the humans; they're chasing the humans' food.
Exactly.
You know, the guy that got killed outside here, he had meat or sausages or something under his coat.
That's right.
There's always something that the bear is attracted to.
You're a walking piece of meat, Ian. You are a walking piece of meat.
I accept that.
So short of turning yourself into a vegetable, you're going to be bear meat.
if the bear's only after something you've got, then there's no need for the whole tranquilization, capturing bears and netting them out further across the coast business. Because all we have to do is tell everyone in the town, don't carry anything with you that the bear wants. I agree with Doug. We're meat, you know. And if a bear's extremely hungry, it's a much larger predator than we are, then it's going to attack us, no? For food, no?
Having wound up the argument in the first place, the least I could do was loosen things up a bit.
Just when every ray of hope was gone, I should have known that you would come along. Can't believe I ever doubted you. My old friend the blues, another lonely night and endless time. If sleep don't take me first, you'll come around.
I was lured out of the bar after midnight by the offer of some late-night polar bear viewing at the rubbish dump a couple of miles out of town. The smell of burning rubbish attracts hungry polar bears from miles around. Ian Redmond, a scientist working for the Born Free Foundation, has set up a system to monitor the effect of the dump on the bear's natural behaviour.
It's a pretty bizarre sight, isn't it?
It's a very strange place to see
bears
a bear,
in bonfires.
It's not quite right.
This used to be known locally as a polar bear dining room.
Right.
The official policy is that if bears get a food reward from following their nose to some source of human food, then they start at the dump and then they start breaking into cabins.
Right.
And since they started to aggressively capture bears that frequent the dump, the number of incidents in town has gone down, so it seems to be working.
Right.
But the trouble is, you know, they take out every bear in the whole area, and this is upwards of 100 bears a year being darted and locked up and flown out and so on. So what we decided to do with the Born Free project was to put in some closed-circuit television cameras and monitor the behaviour of the bears at the dump. It's like a Gary Larson cartoon.
Yeah.
On the far side, because they're all foraging on the dump. And it's, hey, vehicle coming, quick, run!
Right, and they'll run off.
They all run off. The vehicle arrives, oh, no bears at the dump, and goes away again. They all come back again. The real problem is, how do you let the bears do what their instincts are telling them to do without getting into trouble with people?
Ian had put his finger right on the problem. How do you protect a town full of people and allow bears to behave naturally? The next morning, I was off to see a man who claimed to have a unique relationship with polar bears. Brian Ladoon is Churchill's legendary husky breeder and controversial landowner. He'd invited me to his land on the outskirts of town with the promise of a close encounter with wild polar bears.
That looks like a big one. Is that a big one?
They'll get a little bigger than that, but he's a good sized bear.
My God, that does look like a big one to me.
He's big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's having a yawn.
Yeah. Right now they look slow and lumbery and everything, but this bear, when he moves fast, is like lightning speed. You wouldn't believe it.
So that's why we have to be ready to get in the cars if he comes.
Oh
yeah. Brian feeds his dogs every other day, and the smell of the dog food attracts the bears, sometimes in big numbers. It's a precarious situation. He charges people to come and see the bears, but he has to protect his dogs from getting hurt.
You've got to keep remembering to look behind because there's a huge one over there. The other side of the vans. It's easy to forget. Brian's here looking after us, so we should be
yeah,
right.
no, of course, of course. Of course, we're watching.
That's just
you can
gorgeous.
See this wake, eh?
The polar bear completely disappears under the water, and then he breaks up through the ice, and then shakes himself off like a dog. extraordinary place. And they'll be here till the ice comes down, is that right? And then they'll disappear.
Yeah, they'll go en masse within 1 to 2 days. Like 5 will leave, and then the last one will wake up late one morning, slept in too long, and then poof, he's gone too.
Yeah. It's amazing. Oh, you're a bit stuck now, mate. Look, he's stuck on his back.
It was a really magical day. And then we saw Brian's right-hand man driving a huge truck at a polar bear. Apparently, he was trying to stop the bears getting too close to his dogs. Our fixer Edgar did not approve.
Why are they chasing the bear off there?
Well, they say that's, you have the mark on the side of the road, they say that's the territory there, but this is not. So they're trying to teach the bear not to cross the line. So how you teach a wild bear where to cross? Like, one day feeds them with the right hand, and the next day they chase them out with the left hand, like that. That's a joke, you know what I mean? Like, just not a good idea.
Politics involved in the polar bears it's the big deal. Here we are with Brian all day long watching wild polar bears in the wild, outside, safe, because he's keeping an eye on us. But then we're being told that the bears are being trained to know not to come on this path, and that's their area and this is their area, which doesn't strike me as being a very wild animal type thing at all. So it's really confusing. The whole thing's really confusing, but interesting. There he is, look, and we've all now been told to get in the vehicles because he might be going to sleep. No, we mustn't laugh because safety is everything, of course.
It was an unfortunate way to end what had been a beautiful day. Being out there with the bears was just amazing. It made me wonder what it might be like to spend months in the wilderness like our friend Doug. Doug Allen, famous wildlife cameraman, Arctic expert and photographer of 15 years. Doug has spent several winters following the bears out on the tundra. A polar bear lives entirely on hunting seals. Its sense of smell is incredible. It can detect seals deep in the pack ice. The bears stalk their prey, and Doug stalks the bears, above and below the ice. They'll rarely catch a seal underwater, so they wait by air holes in the ice and kill them when they come up to breathe. It takes hours to hunt a seal and just minutes to devour it. The snow was 4 weeks late, and it felt like everything around me was waiting. For the town, snow will bring release from the deadlock between man and bear. The bears are trapped on land until the sea freezes. Only then can they go out and hunt for their first meal in 6 months. The bears of Churchill have the longest fast of any mammal in the world. They can lose up to 500 pounds over the summer months. For some, the weight can be fatal. In desperation, bears will even resort to cannibalism. This male is eating the remains of a young cub that he most likely killed himself. Out here, at times like this, life really does come down to the survival of the fittest. Only ice and snow will bring the promise of fresh food and an end to the conflict. And today is one day Churchill could really do without conflict. It's Halloween. By 7 o'clock, the first bear had been spotted, and he was heading out to the rubbish dump.
there's Department of Natural Resources found in the helicopter one bear across the river, which they're going to keep an eye on to see if he happens to come across. And there's one east of the dump, but both of them aren't of a concern right now.
On such a crucial night of the year, the dump is surrounded by baited traps. This bear is on dangerous ground. Unfortunately for our bear at the dump, he succumbed to the smell of a rag covered in seal oil in the trap and spent the night there. Thanks to Edgar's tip-off, we were up before dawn to check out the trap.
It's a big meal. A little bit stressed overnight.
Yeah, because he's been here all night long.
Yeah, probably hot.
Yeah, but this bear's trying to break out. He's trying to, look. It's a huge wild animal in a tube. It's just horrible to see that. And there's a big lump of seal meat there, and Edgar's saying if he was, you know, he would eat that if he was in a relaxed frame of mind.
This bear was in the wrong place at the wrong time and was off to join the rest at the polar bear jail. The prison was filling up fast, and if the freeze didn't happen soon, the situation would become critical.
We found a peephole, so I can see what's going on. They're opening big stainless steel doors on the left, and there's cages with, you can see the frames where the doors slide up. And but the polar bear trap's shaking around like this. He's obviously trying to get out. I mean, clearly trying to get out.
Though we still couldn't go in, Wade let us have some archive film to show the inside of the jail. During their stay here, the bears are kept as humanely as possible, but they're not given any food. The idea is that the jail sentence will deter them from coming back to town next year.
So 19 bears in there now, and waiting to be released. It's a bit weird, isn't it? But there we are. I suppose it's better than having them wandering around town, but well, by the end of the week I'll come up with the perfect solution of the polar bear problem and we'll all be happier. And so will the bears.
Luckily, nature came up with the solution a lot faster than I did. This is what all the bears have been waiting for, the mothers and cubs especially. The cubs came out of their dens south of Churchill around 6 months ago. They're adapted to the snow from the moment they emerge, but they'll need their mother's protection for 2.5 years. The biggest danger to the cubs is from aggressive males. The arrival of the colder weather will bring them closer to Churchill as their mother takes them north towards the sea ice.
Well, we were asking for it, and boy, we certainly got it. We've been waiting for the snow, and here it is. We're imagining nice Christmas card images of little snowflakes drifting, or big snowflakes drifting down. The wind's blowing it horizontal, and it's freezing. But it's beautiful. It's exactly the way it should look, I think. And of course, now that it's colder and there's more snow, more bears will be coming in. But here it is.
The snow brings out everything, including the tourists, up to 10,000 in one season. These white monster vehicles offer tourists a chance to view the bears safely out in the frozen tundra and without too much damage to the environment. They're only allowed in a certain area and are strictly controlled.
Come on, baby.
No, just let it crawl, that's all we gotta do.
Is that the ice?
Yeah, just follow the broken ice part there.
We're going on the ice?
Yeah, we're gonna drive through the lake here.
We're going on the ice in this huge, huge bus. Do you think that's wise to go on the ice?
Oh yeah, no problem. Just follow the broken trail on the ice there and we'll go to the camp.
Well, we're going on the ice, which I think is a really stupid idea. But here we are. Does it float?
Life preservers are underneath the seats.
I think my acting days are over. I quite fancy driving this for the rest of my days. Get a bar at the back and we'll be laughing.
More intrepid tourists can choose to stay in the Tundra Hotel, a string of sleeping cabins plus kitchen on wheels, offering customers the full 24-hour bear experience.
When we see bears, you're going to be excited. But our best chance of getting a bear to come up to the buggy and getting a really close look at it is if we're quiet. And that's being quiet with moving windows, being quiet in your voice, whisper. Also, nothing goes out of the buggy.
Churchill is the place in the world to see a wild polar bear up close. The people are drawn here for that once-in-a-lifetime experience, and the bears are drawn in by tantalizing smells.
That's cool. I'm excited. The largest carnivore on land. No. Polar bear. The buggy out there.
This is one people-bear encounter Churchill can't do without. 60% of the town's economy relies on the tourists who come here.
This is the first time you've seen a polar bear in the wild.
Oh, it is awesome.
Yeah. Because you breed them, is that right? You've bred polar bear cubs in Denver Zoo, is that right?
Well, yes, I'm a zoo veterinary technician.
Uh-huh.
And I had the opportunity to raise 2 baby polar bears.
Yeah?
Yeah, Klondike and Snow. It was so neat. I got to sleep with them and swim with them, and oh, it was awesome.
And were they born at the zoo?
Yes, they were born at the zoo to a female named Ulu. She abandoned them.
Did she abandon them because they were in captivity, do you think, and not in the wild?
I think it's common for a lot of animals. She was young and innocent, you know, and didn't know how to take care of them. Oh, I'm sorry. I know. Okay.
He's gonna come right up to the van. Don't push up on the buggy. We're almost there too.
Sorry.
I'm too excited. My voice.
You take some then.
Oh, great.
With the bears so at ease with humans, it's easy to forget that they're actually in the wild. The presence of our vehicles with its cocktail of smells was obviously affecting the bears' behavior. Instead of being at the mercy of the bears, it felt like the bears were at the mercy of us. It was great to get so close, but the whole experience just made me think how much we do to protect ourselves from nature. I wanted to experience this place without the trappings of technology, so I hooked up with a man who could show me a more traditional way of life. Robert McDonald. He used to take his dogs out and hunt bears for meat and fur, but now he makes his living doing sleigh rides.
Hello. You've got beautiful eyes. There's dogs with blue eyes, 2 blue eyes, and dogs with 1 blue eye and 1 brown eye. And you don't have any blue eyes. Oh, sweetie. Not to worry.
Have you seen the dog at the front?
Wee boy.
Not to be messed with, I think.
Hey, my friend. They would like to sit still too long, eh?
Yeah. They love it, huh? They love the pulling the sled.
Yeah, they enjoy it. We're never in a rush, eh?
Uh-huh.
I let them travel at their own pace. Had to drive them hard.
No.
And they say that if they travel faster than you walk, they go fast enough.
Oh, brilliant.
That's the way we operate.
That's right.
So just jump right in there. Just kind of hang on. Whoa! Tesqua! Okay.
And then to steer the thing, is the
just,
steering?
Just shift your weight from side to side. Whoa! Toby! Aside! Hup! Through! Everything! Hup!
Yes! This is the fellow. Oh, brilliant. Wish we had miles and miles and miles to go. It's fantastic. Go on now! Whoop! Whoop! What did they say? Mush! Over that way. Watch yourself. No, that's it. There we are. Go on now! On now!
For the town, the arrival of the cold weather means one thing. The bay is starting to freeze. The polar bears will soon be on their way. For the Polar Bear Alert Team, it's time to start releasing inmates back into the wild. The bears are chosen on a first in, first out basis. The anaesthetic allows them to remain aware of their surroundings but unable to react for about an hour. This gives us just enough time to fly the bears 30 miles north so they can be released onto the fresh sea ice. It's a delicate operation and not exactly cheap. For every bear caught and released, it costs thousands of dollars. When you think of polar bears in the wild, this is not how you imagine them.
Drop the cable. Really soft landing for the bears. Well, that's them both released now. And I guess in an hour or so, or maybe less time, they'll be up and off. These two bears are free again.
You can't know for sure how long the anaesthetic will last, but I couldn't resist the opportunity of a lifetime to pat a polar bear goodbye. lasted a few minutes, but it was great to be out there on the ice, alone in the middle of nowhere. I was definitely feeling the need to get away from the town and not to think about the politics of the polar bears.
It's a confusing dichotomy, the whole thing of what is the place. You know, O'Brien's, there's a chain and a lock, and if you're a photographer, you're charged. If you're a film crew, you're charged more. It's weird. It's not like watching, you know, it's not, and nor is it if you're out in the Tundra buggies, you know, you're not going to be, you're charged to do that as well. And I want to be like Doug. I want to go out in the middle of nowhere and, you know, crawl along the ice with it and look at a polar bear doing its stuff on its own. This is what I was dreaming of before I got here, I think. Not bears rooting around the dump, but bears in the snow and the ice blowing along behind them. It's just beautiful. God, it's freezing. They're quite happy in that temperature though, aren't they?
It's not really that cold for a polar bear. It's only, what, -7 or 8 just now. And these guys could just lie there and happily get drifted
Covered
over.
in snow, yeah.
Yeah, it's no problem. You can see how good the insulation is on their fur because you know, it's not melting at all on their fur.
Apparently, polar bears are so efficient at retaining heat that a day like today can actually feel too warm for them. They risk overheating. This bear may look like he's performing for the cameras, but he's actually cooling himself down. Polar bears can lose a small amount of heat by exposing their underside to the cold air.
They're very solitary animals. Apart from mating, they just don't interact with each other. Although here at Churchill, again, is a bit of an exception with the sparring. But they basically live their whole lives on their own in an environment which 8 months of the year they can't see their prey. It's in the water or under the snow. And it has a starkness all of its own, and yet when you watch them moving around and behaving in their own time, you have this animal which is absolutely at one with its environment. I feel really privileged to have seen them as much as I have.
You can't believe they're dangerous when you see them like this. You just can't believe that they would take your head off. Because they look like big teddy bears.
Focus here. There.
Right.
And when you're ready, just press the...
I've got it, all right.
Press the button.
Which button?
That one, single button.
All right,
one push.
Oh, that's really close, my God.
He's catching all the scent from that camp. Because when you bear in mind that these guys can hunt seals when they're buried under the snow up to a mile away, then to catch the scent of a camp with 30 people a mile away is, I mean, it's just feeding on it. It's no problem for him.
I didn't listen to what you said. I was so excited about doing my first shot. But those at home will have heard every word, so it wasn't wasted.
Can you get me a part in the next Star Wars?
Yeah, I can arrange that, yeah.
And not R2-D2, you know?
these wrestling bouts may look serious, but they're just practicing a few moves for the big fights of the mating season.
Seems to do a few swipes and then take a wee break.
It's probably quite tiring when he's got a real good hold of his ear now.
Yeah.
It's funny how you can tell that if they were really trying, they could do each other a lot of damage.
Right.
But they're not.
It's just kind of...
They definitely know that they're just gauging each other's strength as opposed to being in earnest.
Yeah.
Because the way they roll over...
Ah, yeah.